everyone. Hi everyone, welcome back. We're just getting started here in our lesson. Now, in today's lesson, we are going to talk about... Bit of echo there. In today's lesson, we are looking at the listening part of the exam. Okay, so today we're focusing really just on part one, but I will be giving you a bit of general advice and sort of hints and tips that are going to be useful for you for the entire listening exam. So let's get started. If you're watching live, please leave me a little message in the chat just to let me know that my audio is working and that everything looks okay, everything is where it should be. And I'd love to know where you're watching from. So even if you're not watching live, leave a comment. I'd love to hear where you're from. Okay, let me share my presentation with you today and we'll get started. Here we go. All right, so as always, we are going to start with a little joke because, as we know, I'm hilarious. It is a particularly bad joke today, I'm afraid. So here's our question. Why did the bicycle fall over? Give me just a moment to think about that. If you have any ideas, pop them in the chat. This is a really bad joke, so I do apologize. All right. Okay, nobody's got it so far. So I'm going to write the answer for you. It's terrible. I'm sorry. There we go. Because it's too tired. Do you get it? Like, because it's too tired. Like it has two tires. Yeah, sorry. Terrible joke. I apologize. Anyway, there we go. Why did the bicycle fall over? Because it was too tired. All right, let's get started. That was bad. So this is the outline of today's lesson. All right, we're going to start by just giving a brief overview of what to expect in the listening exam in general. Then I'm going to give you some of my kind of tips to help you with your listening. And these apply to all parts of the listening exam, not just part one. And then we are going to have a look at the first part one of the test. We'll look at an example question, and then we'll look through at some other questions in more detail. We'll also be able to have a look at the transcript and listen at the same time. And finally, okay, we're going to practice, of course. And then finally, we'll have a quick quiz just to make sure you've been paying attention and to see how much you remember about the listening exam in general. All right, so let's move on. First up, we have an overview of the exam. Okay, so the listening exam is made up of 4 parts. It typically takes around about 30 minutes and perhaps a little less depending on the audio. Okay, so let me just write this for you. Okay, so 4 parts. Part 1 is the part that we're looking at today. Now in part 1, as you'll see in a moment, we have sort of 3 images. It's a multiple choice activity with 3 images, and you need to try and choose the correct image according to the question. Okay, I'm going to write that here. Choose the correct image, A, B, or C. Okay, that is number 1. Part 2, which I think we're going to look at next week. So part 2 is the only difference between part 1 and part 2 is in part 1, there are some images, and in part 2, there are no images. Okay, in part 2, we have 6 short conversations. And again, A, B, or C. Okay, so multiple choice, 6 short conversations. In part 3 of the test, part 3 is a little different. Part 3 is a gap fill activity. So normally you will have a short text, and you will listen to someone talking about a holiday or about an activity, and you need to listen and fill in the gaps in the text according to what you hear. Okay, so gap fill. And part 4 is multiple choice again, but it is one longer continuous audio. Okay, so it's normally an interview with someone or a monologue. No, normally an interview. Yeah, not usually a monologue. Normally an interview. And again, A, B, or C. So, text is gone. Here we go. Interview. And then A, B, or C. Okay. So there are 4 parts to the exam, and there are a total of 25 questions. Okay, 25 questions in total. So really, to pass, you're going to need, let's say, 13 to pass. Ideally, more, but 13 would probably get you that. Okay, so that's a brief overview. Okay, so a few tips and tricks, things that might help you in the listening in general. If you have any other suggestions, like pop them in the chat, because I'm sure some of you have some useful ideas. I'm going to give you some of mine. The first thing I would recommend is to, when you're preparing for this exam, is to revise some familiar topics. Okay, there are certain topics that we commonly see in the exams in general, and these are things like school, study, work, travel, free time, animals, food. Okay, these are things that we see again and again at B1 level. So make sure that you are at least confident listening, confident talking about those topics. Okay, so let me just write that here for you. Revise. Okay, so that would be the first thing I would recommend. And I think that's probably good advice in general for any exam or for any part of the B1 exam. These are topics that we expect you to know at that level. All right, next up. Okay, something else I would recommend that you do in your listening exam, or something that you should keep in mind, is that if you hear a suggestion during your listening, always wait for the response until you choose your answer. Because very often in the exam, in the listening part and in the reading part, we hear and we see distractors. And distractors are words that are deliberately included in the exam, into the question or into the audio, that might be similar to one of the other answers. And that's why it's really important to not just hear one word and think, aha, it's A, but make sure that the suggestion or that the answer is confirmed by the other people or by the other person in the conversation. All right, so I'm going to put be aware of distractors. Okay, wait for the response before choosing your answer. Okay, so make sure that you listen to the complete audio before you choose your answer. I think that's really important in this test. Okay, next thing I would recommend, let me think about this. I would recommend always, I think this applies to the reading and to the listening, is that you underline key words. Okay, this can help you, perhaps, I'll show you some examples in a moment for part one, but you might see in the question one or two important words that are going to help you focus when you're listening. So obviously these keywords are not going to give you the answer, but they will help you listen for more specific information. So that's something that could be quite useful. And I think the last thing I've got is that something that's often included in exams is listen for synonyms. Okay, so words, synonyms, words that have similar meanings. Okay, these words are often included because they're a little more difficult and you need to understand the meanings of both. So pay attention. You might not hear the exact phrase that you see on your exam paper, but you might hear something very similar. And so that's where listening for synonyms is quite important. Okay. All right, let's zoom on. We're going to do a practice question first. Okay, so we can see we've got our question. Let me just highlight that for you. I'm going to do it. Here we go. Here's our question. Oh, no. There we go. There's our question. Which subject do they decide to study first? So you can see the three images. These represent a subject, a school subject each. Okay, so if you think you might know what they are, pop them in the chat. What do we think? What subject do we think A is representing? I'm gonna take a guess, and I think it could be science, chemistry. I think A could be science. B, we can see a picture of the world, the globe. So I think that might be geography. And then C, it's a bit difficult to see in the image, but I think that's maths. Okay. So when we're preparing, now I mentioned underlining the key words. And in this case, I would say first is our key word here. Because I imagine in the audio, they will probably talk about these three subjects. They will mention all three. But what we're really listening for is first. Which one is first? Okay. Now, let me just see if I have the audio. I just realized I maybe have the wrong audio for this one. Oh, dear. Okay, don't worry. I'm going to ignore that example, and I'm just going to jump onto our question number one, and we can use that as our practice instead. Sorry, guys. My bad. Little poor planning there. All right, so let's refocus, okay? So question number one, here we've got our question. Let me highlight that for you again. Bloop, bloop, bloop. Question number one, what did the girl buy on her shopping trip? And here we have our three objects. Okay, we can see here. Object number one, I would say, is shelves. or bookshelf, perhaps. Option B, I would say, is a lamp. And option C, I think, is a cushion. Okay, now, as we did before, and we've done in the previous one, what did the girl buy on her shopping trip? Okay, so what did she buy? It's possible that she looked at different objects, but we're going to listen specifically for what she bought. Okay, what did the girl buy? Okay, we're going to listen once and try to identify which answer we think it is. And then I'm going to reveal the transcript, and we're going to listen again and try to find the specific phrase in the transcript that gives us the answer. All right, so I hope you are able to hear this all right. If you're not, please shout, leave a comment, leave a message in the chat. Hopefully the audio will work. Here we go. Listen carefully.
1.
What did the girl buy on her shopping trip?
Hi, Lucy. Have you been shopping?
Yeah, getting stuff for my room at college.
What's it like?
Well, not large. There's a bed, a desk, but nowhere to put books. And there's only one big light in the ceiling. I prefer to have a lamp on my desk, so that's what I got today. If I've got enough money, I'll get some bookshelves next week. They had some lovely big cushions on special offer in the department store. I nearly got one today, actually. So maybe the bookshelves can wait.
Okay, so you might have noticed she mentioned all 3 objects. Okay, so there was one of the objects that she said, that's what I got today. And I wonder if you have any ideas which one it could be. Write it in the chat if you think you might know. And I think, I could be wrong, but I'm fairly certain it is the lamp. Okay, I think the lamp was what she bought today. She certainly looked at other objects, but she bought the lamp today. Okay, so I'm going to reveal the transcript for you to have a look at. Here we go. Okay, let me find my pen. Maybe see if I can make this a bit bigger for you. It's a little bit small. Here we go. That's better. Okay, so here we can see the phrase that tells us what she got today. Okay, I'd prefer to have a lamp on my desk, so that's what I got today. Okay, that's what she bought. Now, we can, let's try to eliminate some of the other options. Okay, we've got shelves or the bookshelves and the cushion. Now, I can see here, she mentions some cushions. Okay, oops. They had some lovely big cushions on special offer in the department store. I nearly got one today. Nearly, but she didn't. Okay, so we can eliminate cushions. And next, the bookshelves. I think we mentioned the books or the bookshelves here at the beginning. We say, there's a bed, a desk, but nowhere to put books. Okay, so she's mentioning the shelves, she needs a bookshelf. But then if we look later in the transcript, it says, so maybe the bookshelves can wait. So they're not the most important thing. They're going to wait for another day. Okay, and that's this is a good example of why it's important to wait until the end of that audio to make your decision. Okay, so I'll just let you hear it again so you can read it and you can look and listen.
Now listen again.
Hi, Lucy. Have you been shopping?
Yeah, getting stuff for my room at college.
What's it like?
Well, not large. There's a bed, a desk, but nowhere to put books. And there's only one big light in the ceiling. I'd prefer to have a lamp on my desk, so that's what I got today. If I've got enough money, I'll get some bookshelves next week. They had some lovely big cushions on special offer in the department store. I nearly got one today, actually, so maybe the bookshelves can wait.
All right, so there we go. That is our first question. I hope that kind of explains how we can, how important it is to find those keywords in the question and then apply that to the audio. We eliminated some of the other options and we listened specifically for what she bought on her shopping trip today. All right, let's have a look at the next one. I'm going to zoom in to make it a bit bigger. There we go. Okay, so the question is, why did the plane leave late? Okay, so I would take a guess and say that the important word or words are leave late. Okay, why did it leave late? And for the three options, we have different weather conditions. So the first one, sometimes difficult to say. I would say that's wind. Yeah, wind or windy. B, I would say it's probably snow or ice. And C, I would say is rain. Rain, wet weather. Okay, so let's continue. Let's listen to this first clip and see if we can identify the correct option. And then we'll reveal the transcript and make sure that we have the correct answers. Okay, so listen carefully.
2. Why did the plane leave late?
Good morning, this is your captain speaking. I'd just like to apologize for the late departure of the flight. As you know, we had to wait for the runway to be cleared of snow before we could take off and get on our way. We'll arrive in Manchester in about an hour, and we're told the weather on the ground isn't good. There's heavy rain in the city, and we're expecting strong winds at the airport as we land. But we shouldn't be too far behind schedule. Thanks for your attention.
Okay, so they did mention these three types of weather conditions. Okay, they mentioned the three of them. So let's listen again. We always listen twice. This time I'm going to let you see the transcript